Welcome to the Hishaku Hideout, your first unofficial Kagurabachi podcast. We're only structuring these things to be about 30-45 minute discussions, and details like that we'll put at the back end of the video. And I'm here with my boy Dice.
Yo.
And we're just going to talk about the chapter that just released. Where do you want to start, Dice?
All right, man, let's just start at the top, right? Let's start with this general manager, right? What's his name?
Yojiro Sengoku.
Yeah, that guy, huh? And his Reagan one sword style. What are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, I didn't think much of him, but Hirohiko's almost like not even that worried about him. He's like crying because he's happy Chihiro's still alive. I think that's so funny.
Yeah, no, dude, that was crazy, right? Going back to the general manager real quick, he just had like one panel where he rushed Hirohiko, and it was GG's after that, right? I wasn't personally too mad about it, but I was surprised about Hirohiko. I guess not really surprised, right? But it was cool to see Hirohiko shedding some tears for Chihiro.
And it's funny that Hirohiko, the answer that he arrived to for like in terms of how to deal or what kind of style he will, have with swordsmanship is like he's a student of freedom. I'm gonna do what I want, and he takes Kuguri's words about like crystallization, the forms and all that, and he uses it against them by like, these swordsmen, they're gonna always have a set form, a set style that they want to get back to, like the AI purity white style. They do the sword drawing, so they have a certain stance for that. So Hirohiko, instead of like relying on forms, he is reacting in the moment to whoever he's battling at the time, and whatever conclusion he arrives to beat them will change depending on the scenario. He's basically betting everything he has on his like immense talent to adapt and his potential, just dead set re-solidifying his ideals. He shed tears for Chihiro because that's who he cared. That's his friend. That's the person that he resonated with him, and he just wants to face off his equals and, battle Chihiro. He's kind of developing his own answer, not to justice, but his like how he's going to live.
Yeah, exactly. I think you hit it on the nail with that one. That's like in regards to that, he's like the antithesis to Chihiro, right? I think there's by now we've seen kind of the clear emphasis on them being equals, right? Or at least kind of Hirohiko attempting to be an equal to Chihiro. He obviously has like a twisted perception on what camaraderie and friendship is, but it is kind of that two sides of the same coin type of thing, right? And so that's, I think, what we're seeing here. Essentially, a couple chapters back, we saw Chihiro had to lock in and kind of rely on learning true swordsmanship to kind of push himself to obviously, get closer to his goals. Here, we're kind of seeing a similar thing with Hirohiko, and like you said, is just his own way, right? Like is perfectly stated in this chapter, he has no mentor. He's not somebody's disciple, and he's clearly proud of that, right? So his whole thing is finding his own way to do things. And I think in this case, his fighting style is only like a extension of that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is just it's things like this are horrible for power scalers, right? Because like, here we have this general manager who supposedly, his sword play is 150 years worth of history and whatnot, and Hirohiko completely off screens him, right? But we have to keep in mind that this guy, he's a prodigy. He keeps being compared to Chihiro. We even see them face off eye level at the end of the chapter. They're, it isn't, they're, like I said, two sides of the same coin, clearly equals, same age. He's everything that Sojo wasn't,
Yeah.
And let me not get carried away.
Oh, no, I mean, Cook. Now the thing you nailed is like Hirohiko is like the antithesis of like Chihiro. I'm thinking what we could possibly be seeing, maybe that we're seeing like the duality of war orphans, essentially, where Chihiro's fighting for justice. Hirohiko may be the equal but opposite of Chihiro, basically like you're saying, that that this is a war orphan, but the other side of it. This is what the other side looks like. And Yori is now in the middle as someone with a normal life, completely unattached from like their sides, you know, of good and evil of the war, you know, of each side of the war or whatever the case may be. And now she has a choice to jump into that life, you know, and she gets a reality check seeing the type of world Chihiro lives in and what he has to like struggle against. And you know, she's asking if he's scared and, you know, just to kill. And he's not scared anymore. Like, this is his life. It's every day. It's the same thing as, you know, she would take her friends' desserts. He takes people's lives. You know, it's a coffin baby versus hydrogen bomb, you know? And two, like,
Yeah, no, for sure.
this, you know, culture shock is what she was. Hirohiko, and you kind of talked about the power scaling thing. Like, people are going to be upset that they glazed him, and then, you know, he got off screen and lasted like 3 pages or 4 pages or whatever. I think just the way these kind of stories work, when you have like a main character like Chihiro who has immense talent. Hokuzono, you know, he needs Chihiro to evolve at a quick rate to like match the story's like pace. What we can do is, like, I think Hirohiko is a good wedge here because he also plays into Chihiro's like innate like talent, like just of potential. But we're seeing him take out like people that don't matter in order to progress his basic skill with swords. He's not trying to develop a sword skill in 24 hours like Chihiro is.
You're saying basically taking care of fodder, like the people,
Yeah,
like
even though they glaze
yeah,
him,
for sure.
you know, like, because they're gonna look at a problem as like, oh, they glazed them just to get rid of them. But the thing is, if they didn't glaze him and Hirohiko just got rid of anybody, you wouldn't agree with the outcome of him being equal to Chihiro, because he's already said he's not equal to Chihiro just with an enchanted blade. He needs some like baseline ability. Like,
I mean, it makes, I get you, and to me it does make sense, right? Because like I said, a couple of chapters ago, we saw something similar from Chihiro. You know, obviously with Chihiro, we get the explanation that are his eyes, right? That, you know, he has the eyes of his father, which is essentially the reason why he's able to replicate something like I forgot what it's called, Aoi white purity style.
Yeah, the AI white purity style.
So in the case of Hirohiko, we know enough to know that, like I said, he's a prodigy on the level, or at least enough to keep up with Chihiro. We just don't know why that is, right? And that's something that might be revealed later on that ties directly to like the Hishaku, the tattoos or whatever. But I don't have an issue with any of this because Hirohiko is clearly, Hirohiko is clearly that guy for Chihiro, the guy that's gonna push him. I'm really hoping this isn't the end. I'm really hoping that this next fight isn't their last fight, right? Like I would like this character to be, like I'm saying, the one character that keeps coming back to push Chihiro. Because I was kind of like disappointed with Sojo not sticking around, and I wouldn't like Hirohiko to go down the same route where GG's after the rematch.
Yeah,
but we don't know.
Your I guess early prediction would be that Hirohiko makes it out of this hotel alive. I think he's going to be a long-term rival for Chihiro.
I don't know. I would like for it, but he already escaped death. He already escaped Chihiro once, barely. But actually, I think so because
he has to use his sword.
They don't have their enchanted blades, right? Because does Chihiro have Enten?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure he does.
He has to, right?
Yeah, he wouldn't trust it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I really don't know, man. If they pull out the enchanted blades, you just don't know with Hokuzono, really. I wouldn't like I said.
If Samura shows up.
I mean, that's probably realistically what could happen. I would actually, now that you bring that up, that I would like that for it. I would like that to happen. So it can be the reason that, this isn't the last fight we see from them. And it also makes sense considering his daughter's, right in the middle.
And Chihiro is Hirohiko's end goal. That's what he did. He wants to like meet Chihiro. He wants to basically sit down and have desserts like him and Sojo did when they fought. You know, he wants to get on that level with that deep level with Chihiro. Chihiro's end result is much higher than Hirohiko. You know, Chihiro is aiming for Yura. So, you know, I think it is going to be interesting to see when Hokuzono actually does take Hirohiko out.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I agree as well. Regarding Hirohiko, it's tough to say, right? Like where exactly his character will go. But I think what we're seeing from him is it's this clear like a personal endeavor as a kind of reaction to what you said, right? We don't know the exact conditions he was brought up in, but you know, being raised by the Hishaku, I guess we could have some sort of idea. But I think what we're seeing between him and Chihiro is interesting because I wonder, and I honestly wouldn't be able to predict or know, obviously, but like, was Yura counting on this sort of interaction between like Hirohiko and Chihiro, or is this something that he might have overlooked and it might come to bite him in the ass later? Because I think Hirohiko is very much, you know, following the Hishaku's grand plan of things, right? Like and I know that you weren't saying he wasn't, right? But just to emphasize, like, I think that's a big priority for him. It would be interesting to see if in the future he would have to choose between like fulfilling a mission for the Hishaku or kind of like, you know, being able to extend this fucked up relationship he has with Chihiro. So it is very interesting, right? And it is going to be very interesting to see moving forward. But I don't know, man. I don't know, because like I said, I can't see a situation where, you know, Yura had this grand plan and brought up Hirohiko as this kid isolated from, you know, as this kid isolated from interactions with other kids, kind of knowing that when he would release him, you know, out in the world, searching for Chihiro, he could count on something like this. And obviously Chihiro isn't looking for any sort of personal relationship, right? Like we've seen that. It's going to be interesting with Yori as well to see, because, you know, we don't know if anything romantic is gonna start unfolding there. But Chihiro is a very mission oriented guy, and what we're seeing from Hirohiko is kind of something different. I'm sorry. And I wonder if at some point he's going to be forced to choose, right? And how Chihiro is going to react to that.
I think that Hirohiko could very well just be a tool for Yura to grow Chihiro. Like that, like he lets Hirohiko within his purview to do what he wants, essentially, because he basically indoctrinated him to like want to like chase Chihiro like a little brother almost. Like basically like always at his tails, like basically furthering along Chihiro's development. So maybe that Yura has someone to fight against when he gets the Magatsumi. You know, he has someone that he can actually test the sword out against. And then he basically just raises him to push Chihiro forward. Like, how would you feel about that?
Yeah. No, I think that sort of dynamic, you know, would definitely work, right? And it paints Yura as, once again, this guy that has been able to pull the strings since a long time ago, right? We've seen a glimpse of it with like the whole Rakuzaichi ordeal and like how he handled kind of the submission of the Magatsumi under Sojo's name. So we know this is a guy capable of pulling strings, right? But how far back can he go, right? And, you know, the Shikoku was just recently revealed last chapter. You know, now we're getting back to Hirohiko and kind of like, once again, his personal thing with Chihiro. I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, we slowly start getting these reveals of like how Yura has been able to manipulate, you know, a lot more, right? And like kind of like the Magatsumi thing being only like the tip of the iceberg. You know, it's not an accident that we don't know a lot of not just Yura but the Hishaku in terms of like their motivations beyond, you know, the general consensus, right?
Yeah.
And who exactly these people are. So it's all up in the air, but I can see it, man. I definitely, I do think Yura is definitely some sort of manipulator. Like I said, it's just about how deep it goes and how back it goes. But I don't think he's being kept in the dark to be this random guy that's just been sitting on the sidelines waiting to strike.
Jumping back to the chapter, I want to talk about Yori and Chihiro, like their talk, basically like a culture shock of a reality check for Yori to find out that you want to have this relationship with this man you don't really know. This is the life that you're gonna have to accept. And she sees basically Chihiro standing, dead bodies all around him, and she's his age. He doesn't even like look sad when he says how peaceful, talking about like how her life is, like the battle she fights is about her dessert, but he's just saying how peaceful. But Chihiro doesn't look sad. He's steeled his resolve. This is the life he is grown to accept. But he isn't scared. He's just basically marching forward. And Yori just is not ready for something like that, and we see her wanting to go back to school with her regular life.
Yeah, man. I think the thing with Chihiro is a lot of people, and even me included, we were like under the interpretation, I feel like, that he was this kid that was like a stranger to how the world actually operated, like I think as this kid that clearly didn't go to like public school or anything like that, I think we saw them as a kid that was like oblivious to all of that. And I think what we're seeing now is that he isn't. I think he was raised kind of like, if I take all this as context clues, I really do think he was raised in a way where like he knew exactly what he was missing out on. It's almost like his father, and we've seen a little bit of that, right? So this is what I believe, like raised him knowing that he, or like instilling in him that he was raising him differently, that he wasn't an ordinary kid. He was son of Kunishige Rokuhira, and there's these blades that he obviously had to take care of, and all that isn't, it's not just that, it's all that it entails. So I wouldn't even be surprised if we later know that Chihiro knows the truth, what we still don't know regarding the Shinichi and the Magatsumi. I don't think so, because I personally want that to be like a internal conflict for him.
And
I mean, we can get into that. Yeah, go ahead.
Not to cut you off, but I mean, I think that would be interesting if like the big reveal happens and he just says, "I know all that already," and you're like, "Oh shit!" So, but how he acts to like Hirohiko basically at the theater, he says like, "How do you know the swordsman is someone worth protecting?" and all that. I think his, like, if I remember correctly, his reaction to that makes us think that he does view them differently, or he doesn't know the whole truth, but to your point that he could know something that is like deeper than what we're even aware of at this point. But he still might look at the sword bearers as like heroes.
No, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, maybe he doesn't know like the whole thing, right? Because maybe that doesn't make sense. But I think that what we might see is, or at least I wouldn't be surprised, is like he knows enough. Like I feel like Chihiro, from what we're seeing, is I do think that either he, maybe he had to figure out some point after his father died. Maybe it wasn't something that was instilled in his, like, when he was being raised. But
those 3 years, we didn't see anything with those 3 years of in between Kunishige and the story starting. True.
No, and we obviously know that he's changed a lot. And the last thing I'll say about this is just that this might be kind of far-fetched, but we know now for a fact that he has these unique eyes, right? I could see like that being the reason that he was able to see like just enough from like his father's behavior regarding the enchanted blades, and like the way his father talked about the Shinichi, the way his father talked about protecting the enchanted blades, that maybe he doesn't know the truth, but he knows enough, right? He knows enough to smell the bullshit.
He gets the gist of like, yeah, like I could see that, and like, because he did seem very mature very early. It's like this journey, right? Chihiro's journey, and we're wondering if we're going to get to a point where Chihiro discovers that maybe the person that he's revenging isn't worth like avenging, you know, or you know what I mean, like
Exactly.
which would suck, and especially with how far he's devoted, you know, his life to at this point and what he's done. He may turn inward on himself. Not saying he's gonna become the villain, but Chihiro kind of having a villain arc against the Kamunabi, you know, it could be that they were the bad people originally.
Yeah, I mean that's almost definitely the case,
Yeah,
right? Like,
and because like look, we even see like the Kamunabi don't really care, like they're just in the streets hanging people up, the mafia or whatever in the first chapter, and it's like they're just hanging people up, and the Kamunabi's not doing nothing. They were gonna let the Rakuzachi just continue, and they were just gonna bid to give them money, like instead of like actually like go through like due diligence of like shutting down criminal organizations. They're okay with them like running in the background.
yeah, it's interesting once again because the next couple of reveals, right? Considering that Shikoku was brought up and even the way all of that exposition was handled, you can just tell that there's clearly something there, right? That's why I say like it's almost a guarantee that what we're being told and the propaganda regarding Kunishige and what happened during the war is that, right? Just propaganda. It's going to be interesting to see whether, like I said, Chihiro knows some of the truth or whether he doesn't, how that kind of unfolds, because I think one thing that is kind of like been brought up in the story more than once already is the fact that Kunishige told his son that he would have to see the world through his own eyes. And he has kind of like thought of that moment a couple of times, kind of like referencing that he is actively doing that. And that's something that right now I wonder, is he actually looking at the world through his own eyes? Because if he is, that would imply that, like I said, that he is not kind of brainwashed like the rest of the world is. But does he know everything, right? Because I think right now we're seeing a huge contrast between him and Yori, and it kind of reminds me, I wasn't the only one reminded of this, but the whole Riko Amanai sequence with Geto right before Toji comes in, right? So it is going to be interesting how next chapter unfolds and whether Samura jumps in and whether we get more exposition about kind of the Seitei War, because if Samura jumps in, we have him, his daughter, Hirohiko, Chihiro. That would be very interesting to see, where that kind of conversation goes, or if they just, get to fighting. But I don't know. Right now, I really am curious to see where Hokazono takes this. I think we're asking the right questions, and I think Hokazono is aware of that, right? I think he knows that what we want is information about the Seitei War. We want more about the Enchanted Blades. We want more about Datenseki. And so I think the reveals from here on forward are only going to get crazier. So I'm just, I'm down for the ride.
Basically closing out this chapter, it's a lot like the Riko Amanai moment of her, telling Geto she doesn't want to merge with Tengen. Yori now wants to go back to school. She's seen what this world looks like. The memories that she actually made with her friends, even, if it was a fabricated like existence, that's the existence she knows. She's made real bonds with people. Like those are like legit memories that, she's lived her whole life basically at this point. But for all that to happen and the elevator opens to be met with Hirohiko, who's covered in blood, holding a head, meeting face to face with Chihiro, saying he's ready for him. He's now in the same ring. They're both exhausted now. Like Chihiro just, has been up all night, training, learning a sword style. He just fought that whole hallway of like fodder. Hirohiko, he did have to fight the manager dude who is, stronger than all the fodder, but I mean, still, like, he's a flunk. He's a fraud.
Still got cooked.
Yeah, he got cooked in his own hotel. I think what I like most is, like, Chihiro's just like, don't worry. Like, he's not, like, he's locked in, but he's not, like, frantic or he's not, like, surprised. You know what I mean? I kind of want Hirohiko to be a long-term rival for Chihiro and help him,
I'm so scared, bro.
But anything could happen, literally anything. And I'm excited to see where it goes. The art in this chapter was stellar. I mean, the peephole panel was, everyone's talking about on Twitter. Gas. But the last thing I want to bring up is and I talked to you a little bit about this, but the last two panels of the peephole, it like kind of almost looks like the residuals that was coming off the Shikoku residence in that panel from last chapter when they were on shore. The little black aura. It could be blood splatter, but I'm sure it most likely is just going to be that way, but I don't know. It kind of stuck out to me, those two panels. Or maybe, you know what it is? It kind of just looked at it and I just looked at it a different way. It could just be blood splatter on the peephole itself, like the outside glass of the peephole.
Yeah, which specific panel are you talking about?
The one with right after the dope panel of Chihiro cutting people up.
So the one to the right, the top right panel?
Or the one you see where Yori says it's okay now? Yeah. And there's two small panels of the circle peephole.
Yeah.
Yeah, those. The top right one and the top left one. It could just be blood splatter. I don't know. Well, no, I guess it couldn't be blood splatter because it would still how the first panel is to the second panel, it's different. So it's actually a moving substance. It's something moving.
Well, the way I see it is just like it's right before the splatter of blood lands on the people. You feel me?
Yeah, no. I'm saying I agree. That's probably most likely what it is. But when I was reading it, that stuck out to me like it was almost like I wanted to see that in the panel. I do think it's just the blood spray of the people he's slashing down, he's cutting. But I want to say to that Shikoku backstory, the Shikoku files to get released, Yeah,
no, and that's exactly why I was gonna go into that now. Is Hokazono knows that that's what we want. He's aware that that's what we're waiting for. So he knows that we're on the edge of our seats. Especially after the ultimate reveal last chapter. I wouldn't be surprised if that isn't touched for the next 10 chapters. We just don't get anything else for the next chapters because I think I told you before we started recording, but this series is going to develop a lot of schizophrenics just like JJK. It's that gay effect. So I really do think that the author's aware of that, and he might even do visual references to that to just kind of keep us on the edge of our seat. So we're gonna have to wait and see, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're waiting for a while.
Now, all right, so we're gonna wrap this up, and then we could just briefly go over the channel, the podcast stuff. But quick, early predictions from you. I'm just gonna spit fire. Do you think Samura's showing up to the hotel? Just you personally?
Yes, I think Samura's showing up to the hotel.
Do you think Samura's dying this arc?
That's tough because I want to say yes, but I can't say how. I wouldn't be able to say how.
I think he does.
So yes, I'm gonna go yes. Yeah. He's just an issue. He's too strong right now. So,
those are just two things I was wondering. If y'all have an opinion, drop those down in the comment section. And
yes,
is there any closing thoughts or statements, Dice?
No, not really, man. Just excited to see what else Hokazono's cooking up. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Samura next chapter. But yeah, just excited to see where Hokazono takes this, really.
We're gonna be putting out these quick cast or these podcast episodes specifically about the new chapter, Kagurabachi. We're gonna try and release them every Sunday, maybe on Mondays, and on break weeks we're really going to try to get in our bag and do maybe a topic video, something fun like a tier list or guest episodes. So there'll be time to do those things later in the future. And this is really just kind of a more laid back thing for us, not much editing. So there's going to be slip ups, please forgive us for that. And we're still learning and kind of just learning how to do this ourselves. It's our first time doing something like this. So, we're going to grow too. And I hope you stay on board. You like and subscribe to the channel, all that stuff, because we're going to grow. It's like me and him are Hirohiko and Chihiro. The
No, but we're excited, for the people to join us on this journey. This, we're just talking about Kagurabachi. We're just fans like everybody else, and we'll see where this takes us, man.
I mean, honestly, this channel kind of stemmed just because we enjoy talking about Kagurabachi. And every time me and Dice have ever gotten on a call together, like we always go longer than we need to, because we're usually just theory crafting or hyping up Hokuzono in the most recent chapter, or like there's just so much to love about the series, and we wanted to see where it takes us. So this isn't our main channels either. Dice's channel will be in the description, so will mine. We both do Kagurabachi content from time to time. We still will do Kagurabachi content on our own solo channels.
Oh yeah.
And JJK and things like that. But until then, I mean, I think that's it. That's the Hishaku Hideout first episode. Students of Freedom. Ooh, that's such a hard ass line from Hirohiko.
Yes, sir. Yeah. No, we appreciate you guys joining us for this one. So
all right.
Peace out.
Peace.